So now that you understand that hunger is a condition of poverty and that the two are intimately linked, I want to move into a discussion of coping mechanisms that are used here domestically. Typically, I've mentioned before that a family who's dealing with food insecurity might skip a meal. They also might engage with what's known as dumpster diving. So you might see a family behind a grocery store getting food out of the dumpster or getting furniture or whatever out of the dumpster. But it's people, although some people do dumpster diving for a lifestyle choice, people in food insecure situations might do it for out of necessity. You also see sharing among family members. If you remember the example of the milk in the cereal that I gave you, people also will utilize emergency services. And then also there's a large group of people that, especially in the rural South, where they'll rely on families and friends. One of the reasons that hunger and poverty are difficult to track in more rural areas is that people will tend to rely on family and friends as a first coping mechanism before they then go to the social safety net programs. So for example, in studies of homelessness, in urban areas it's a lot easier to measure because you can do homeless counts and measure how many people on a particular day check into the homeless shelters to sleep at night. But in a rural area, someone who's homeless might sleep on a friend's couch for a week and then might go to a grandparent's house for a week and then might sleep in their car for a week. And so that person isn't being checked in anywhere and is very difficult to identify and then even more difficult to count or track. So I want you to note that the discrepancies between rural and urban hunger and poverty. There are some readings on the website that we'd like you to read through. And then also, as you read through them, there's a discussion that we'd like you to participate in to try to create a dialogue with you about some of these issues and some of these coping mechanisms and how different people groups cope in different ways. And later on in this lecture, you're going to get some strategies that people in international hunger and poverty situations use to cope with hunger. But domestically, it's a little bit of a different picture, even though it's the same human condition. So again, just a reminder, please read the articles on the website and participate in the discussion. The major themes that are touched upon in the articles are food insecurity of single mothers. They're a particularly large vulnerability group here in the United States, and focusing again on linkages between hunger and poverty. And then the final reading is about human trafficking and hunger. Although people tend to equate human trafficking as an international issue that is far away from us and exists in places of extreme poverty, there's been over the last several years, unfortunately, a very high increase in the prevalence of human trafficking here in the United States. What drives it home for me, and I think for you as a student, particularly if you're an Auburn University student, you're well aware that the Atlanta airport is an hour and a half north of Auburn, and that airport is actually the hub of human trafficking here in the United States, and it's estimated that between 200 and 300 women and children are trafficked through the Atlanta airport every month. And the problem has become so prevalent that there are a lot of NGOs and faith-based groups that are actually based in places like Bangkok, Thailand, that have now opened offices in Atlanta to deal with the problem here. So when we think about hunger and poverty and its linkages, although we think human trafficking is a very extreme situation and is far off, I'd like to begin painting the picture that it's actually right here in our own backyard.